The signal came through the darkness of space like a scream. It bounced across star systems, riding on emergency frequencies that nobody had used in centuries. The message was simple and desperate. Help us. Please. Anyone. Captain Hyun-woo sat in the command chair of the reconnaissance ship Taewang, watching the stars streak past. His shift was supposed to be quiet. Just another patrol along the outer rim of human space. Then the communications panel lit up with red warnings. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Minji said from her station. She was the tactical officer, young but sharp. Her fingers moved across the holographic display. "It's a distress call. Old format. Really old." Hyun-woo leaned forward. "Play it." The bridge speakers crackled to life. A voice spoke in a language the computer didn't recognize at first. Then the translator kicked in. The voice was high-pitched, trembling with fear. "This is Colony Administrator Ven of Velis Prime. We are under attack. The Kraith Empire has surrounded our world. They are destroying our cities. We have no weapons, no defenses. We are a peaceful people. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. We need help now. Our children are dying." The message repeated, over and over, the same desperate plea. Hyun-woo felt something tighten in his chest. He looked at his crew. Minji met his eyes. So did Do-yoon, the ship's engineer, and Yoonji, the science officer. They all knew what that message meant. "How far?" Hyun-woo asked. Yoonji checked her sensors. 3 days at maximum speed, but Captain, we should report this to command first. Protocol says—" "I know what protocol says," Hyun-woo interrupted. He stood up and walked to the view screen. Somewhere out there, people were dying. Not humans, but people nonetheless. "Minji, what do we know about the Kraith Empire?" Minji pulled up data on her screen. "Not much. They're not part of the Galactic Council. Reports say they're aggressive. They take what they want. The Council has filed complaints but never taken action." "Of course they haven't," Do-yoon muttered. The engineer shook his head. "The Council doesn't take action. They just talk." Hyun-woo knew that was true. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council only 5 years ago. It had been a shock for everyone. The other species thought Earth was empty. They didn't expect to find a civilization there because Earth was what they called a death world. Too much gravity, too much radiation, too many predators. No civilized species should have evolved there, but humans did, and that made the other species nervous. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from Council Space," Yoonji said. "It's the Council itself. They're ordering all ships to ignore the Velen distress call. They say it's an internal matter. They're sending diplomats to negotiate." "Diplomats," Hyun-woo repeated. The word tasted bitter. "How long will that take?" "Weeks. Maybe months." Hyun-woo looked at the view screen again. He thought about the voice in the message, the administrator talking about children dying. He thought about his own daughter back on Earth. What if it was her world burning? Would he want someone to wait for diplomats? "Set course for Velis Prime," he said. "Maximum speed." "Captain, that's against orders," Yoonji warned. "I didn't hear any orders," Hyun-woo said. "Did you?" His crew smiled. They knew their captain. Hyun-woo had fought in the border wars before humanity joined the Council. He had seen what happened when good people did nothing. Minji's fingers flew across her controls. "Course set. 3 days." "Good. Now get me Admiral Sunho." The crew went quiet. Admiral Sunho commanded the carrier battle group Incheon Dawn. It was the largest human military force in this sector. If Hyun-woo was calling him, this was serious. The communication took a few minutes to connect. When it did, Admiral Sunho's face appeared on the screen. He was older than Hyun-woo, with gray hair and sharp eyes. His uniform was perfectly pressed even though it was the middle of the night on his ship. "Captain Hyun-woo," Sunho said, "this better be important." "It is." "Sir, I'm sending you a distress call. A species called the Velens is under attack. The Council is ignoring it." Sunho listened to the recording. His expression didn't change, but Hyunwoo saw his jaw tighten. "The council ordered us to stand down?" Sunho asked. "Yes, sir." "And you're going anyway?" "Yes, sir." Sunho was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Good. Send me your coordinates. I'm bringing the fleet." Hyunwoo felt relief wash over him. "Sir, that's 20 warships. The council can file a complaint," Sunho interrupted. "I'm tired of watching innocent people die while bureaucrats debate. If humanity is going to be part of this galaxy, we're going to do it our way. Stand by for reinforcements." The transmission ended. Hyunwoo sat back down in his chair. His hands were shaking slightly. He had just started something big, something that might change everything. "Captain," Minji said softly, "the rest of the fleet is responding. I'm counting 15 battleships, 3 carriers, support vessels. They're all coming." Doyen laughed. "We're really doing this. We're going to war." "Not war," Hyunwoo corrected. "Rescue." But deep down, he knew it might be both. The Taewang jumped to faster-than-light speed. Behind it, across human space, warships began to move. Crews rushed to battle stations. Marines loaded into dropships. Pilots climbed into fighters. Nobody asked why. Nobody hesitated. The distress call had gone out, and humanity was answering. In the Galactic Council chambers, alarms started going off. Sensors detected the human fleet moving in formation. Ambassadors from a dozen species demanded to know what was happening, but humanity didn't answer their questions. They had already made their choice. 3 days. That's how long the Velans had to survive. 3 days until the Deathworlders arrived. Commander Thexnall of the Kraith Empire stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched Velis Prime burn. The planet turned slowly below, its cities glowing with fire. Orbital bombardment platforms floated around his ship like metal moons, their weapons charged and ready. "Status report," Thexnall demanded. His second officer checked the displays. "The northern continent is secure. The Velans have retreated to their underground shelters. Our ground forces are preparing to breach the doors." Thexnall clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. This was almost too easy. The Velans had no military, no weapons. They were sheep waiting for slaughter. And the Galactic Council? They would send diplomats in a few weeks. By then, it would be too late. "How long until the mining operations can begin?" Thexnall asked. 3 days, Commander. We need to clear out the major cities first." "Then clear them. I want this planet productive within the week." The bridge crew worked efficiently. They had done this before. Dozens of worlds had fallen to the Kraith Empire. This was just another conquest, another planet stripped of resources, another population enslaved. Then the alarms started screaming. "Commander!" The sensor officer's voice was high with panic. "Multiple contacts just entered the system. I count 20 capital ships, plus fighters. They just appeared at the edge of our sensor range." Thexnall spun around. "What? Who? The Council doesn't have a fleet that size." "I don't know, sir. The signatures don't match anything in our database. They're accelerating toward us. Fast." "Put it on screen." The view screen shifted. Thexnall saw them. Ships. Lots of ships. They were different from Council vessels. More angular, more aggressive. They moved in tight formation, already closing the distance. "Send a warning," Thexnall ordered. "Tell them this is Kraith territory. They need to leave immediately." The communication officer worked his console. "Message sent. No response, Commander." "Then send it again." "Still no response. Wait. I'm receiving something now. It's a single message, audio only." "Play it." A voice filled the bridge. It was strange, deep and rough. The translator struggled with it for a moment before the words became clear. "This is Captain Hyunwoo of the human vessel Taewang. You are attacking a civilian population. Leave now, or be removed." Silence fell across the bridge. Human? Nobody had heard of humans before, and removed? This small fleet thought it could challenge the Kraith Empire? Thexanol laughed. It started as a chuckle and grew into a full roar. His crew joined in. The idea was ridiculous. He had 3 times as many ships. This was a border conflict. Nobody brought this much firepower to save some worthless peaceful species. "Signal our fleet," Thexanol said. "Open fire. Show these humans what happens when they challenge the Kraith Empire." The Kraith warships turned as one. Their weapons charged. Energy beams lanced through space toward the human fleet. The humans didn't dodge. They didn't retreat. They accelerated forward. Thexanol watched in disbelief as human ships flew straight into the weapons fire. Their shields flared bright with each hit, but they didn't break. Council ships would have been destroyed instantly. These ships just kept coming. "What are they made of?" someone whispered. The human ships returned fire. Their weapons were different too. Kinetic rounds that moved faster than anything Thexanol had seen. Energy beams that cut through shields like paper. And missiles. So many missiles. A Kraith destroyer exploded to his left. Then another. The humans weren't fighting like council species. They weren't trying to disable or negotiate. They were trying to kill. "Evasive maneuvers!" Thexanol shouted. "All ships! Evasive!" Too late. The human fighters were already among them, small craft that moved with impossible speed. They dodged and weaved through defensive fire like they could predict every shot. Kraith pilots tried to lock on, but couldn't keep up. "Commander, the humans are pulling forces that should kill their pilots. 9 gravities, 12. No organic being can survive that." But the humans did, because they came from a death world. Their bodies were built for punishment that would kill any other species. Boarding pods launched from human ships. They slammed into Kraith vessels at speeds that should have crushed everything inside. Instead, hatches blew open and armored figures poured out. Thexanol watched the security feeds from other ships, human marines in powered armor. They moved through corridors with weapons raised. Kraith soldiers tried to stop them. It was useless. The humans were faster, stronger, more coordinated. They fought like predators, because that's what they were. "Sir, we're losing ships. 5 down. No, 7. The humans are boarding the bombardment platforms." Thexanol felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. Pure, cold fear. "Pull back," he ordered. "All ships, retreat to—" "Sir, human dropships are entering the atmosphere. They're landing on Velis Prime." On the planet below, Major Ji-yoon gripped the handles inside the dropship as it screamed through the atmosphere. The ship shook violently. Red lights flashed. Temperature warnings blared. A normal species would be unconscious from the G-forces, but Ji-yoon's Marine squad just checked their weapons. 30 seconds to touchdown," the pilot shouted. "You heard him," Ji-yoon called to her troops. "We've got civilians in those shelters and Kraith soldiers trying to kill them. Standard rescue protocol. Save the innocent, eliminate the threat. Questions?" "No, ma'am." The dropship hit the ground hard. The ramp dropped. Ji-yoon was first out, her rifle up and scanning. The city around her was burning. Bodies lay in the streets, both Velen and Kraith. But the Kraith soldiers were still there, trying to breach a shelter entrance. They saw the humans and opened fire. Energy bolts flew through the smoke. Ji-yoon's armor absorbed the hits. She returned fire, 3 precise shots, 3 dead Kraith. Her squad spread out behind her, their training taking over. The Kraith weren't prepared for this. They were used to fighting unarmed civilians. Now they faced soldiers from a world that had known nothing but war for thousands of years, soldiers who evolved from persistence hunters, who could track prey for days, who never gave up. The battle was short and brutal. Within minutes, the Kraith forces were scattered. Some surrendered, most ran. Ji-yoon's Marines secured the shelter entrance. "This is Major Ji-yoon to Shelter Command," she broadcast. "Human forces have secured your position. You're safe now. Open the doors." The response came in that same high-pitched voice from the distress call. "Human?" What is human? Who are you? We're the ones who answered your call for help, Ji-yoon said. Now open up. We've got medical supplies and food. Slowly, the shelter doors opened. Velens emerged. They were small, barely coming up to Ji-yoon's waist. They had large eyes and delicate features. They looked at the armored humans with obvious terror. One Velen, wearing administrator robes, stepped forward. You came? We didn't think anyone would come. Ji-yoon removed her helmet. She smiled down at the small alien. We came, and we brought friends. In orbit, Commander Thexnall watched his fleet fall apart. Half his ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest were fleeing. The humans had crushed them in less than 2 hours. 2 hours. It should have been impossible. Retreat, he whispered. Full retreat. Jump to hyperspace. Now. His flagship turned and ran. The surviving Kraith ships followed. Behind them, the human fleet held position around Valus Prime, victorious, unstoppable. Captain Hyunwoo watched them go from his bridge. He didn't smile, didn't celebrate. Too many people had died today. Secure the system, he ordered. Get medical teams to the surface. Find every survivor. Save everyone we can. Yes, sir, his crew responded. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. Administrator Ven stood in the ruins of his city and tried to understand what he was seeing. The sky was full of strange ships, not Kraith ships. These were different. Human ships, they called themselves. And on the ground, walking through the streets, were the humans themselves. They were giants. That was Ven's first thought. Most stood twice as tall as any Velen. They wore armor that made them look even bigger. Their faces were strange. 2 eyes instead of 4, flat noses, mouths full of teeth that looked designed for tearing meat. Predators. Every instinct in Ven's body screamed at him to run, but the humans weren't attacking. They were helping. One of them knelt beside a wounded Velen child, her armor covered in scorch marks. She had removed her helmet and was speaking softly while bandaging the child's leg. It's okay, the human said. Her name tag read, Hyun. You're safe now. This might sting a little. The child whimpered but didn't pull away. Ven watched in amazement as Hyun finished the bandage and gave the child a small piece of candy from her pack. What are you? Ven asked before he could stop himself. Hyun looked up at him. She smiled, but Ven saw the tiredness in her eyes. We're human. We heard your distress call. We came to help. But why? We have nothing to offer you. No technology you don't have. No resources worth this effort. Why would you fight for us? Hyun stood up slowly. Because you needed help. Isn't that enough? It should have been a simple answer. But to Ven, it was incomprehensible. In the galaxy, nobody helped without expecting something in return. That was how things worked. That was how they had always worked. I don't understand, Ven said honestly. I know, Hyun replied. Come on. Let's get you and your people to the medical station. We need to check everyone for injuries. The medical station was set up in what used to be a school. Human medical personnel moved efficiently through rows of Velen patients. Ven watched a human doctor named Youngmi examine an elderly Velen with a broken arm. This is a clean break, Youngmi said through her translator. We'll need to set it and put on a cast. You'll heal fine. She worked quickly and professionally. But as she did, Ven noticed something strange. Youngmi had a deep cut on her own arm. It was fresh, probably from the battle, but she wasn't treating it. She was ignoring it to help the Velens. You're injured, Ven said. Youngmi glanced at her arm. This? It's nothing. Just a scratch. But you're bleeding. I'll take care of it later. These people need help now. Later, Ven asked Hyun about it. They were sitting in a temporary command center drinking something the humans called coffee. It tasted terrible, but it was warm, and Ven was cold. Your doctor is injured, but she keeps working, Ven said. Why doesn't she heal herself first? Because others need help more than she does, Heiyun explained. That's how we're trained. Take care of others first. But what if she gets worse? What if the injury becomes serious? Heiyun shrugged. Then someone else will help her. That's what humans do. We look out for each other. She pulled up a display on her tablet. Let me show you something. This is Earth, our home world. Ven looked at the planet rotating on the screen. It was beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. But as Heiyun zoomed in, Ven saw the reality. Earth has gravity almost twice what you're used to, Heiyun explained. When we visit other planets, we feel light, fast, strong, because we evolved in high gravity. She showed him weather patterns. These are hurricanes, massive storms that can destroy entire cities. We have dozens every year. And tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis. Our planet is constantly trying to kill us. More images. Animals. These are predators from Earth. Lions, tigers, bears, sharks. Some of them hunt in packs. Some can run faster than our fastest vehicles. We evolved alongside them, learning to hunt, to fight, to survive. Ven felt his fear growing. This is a nightmare world. How did you survive? We adapted, Heiyun said simply. We became better hunters, smarter fighters. We learned to work together, because alone we would die, but together we could take down prey 10 times our size. She showed him human anatomy. We have redundant organs, 2 kidneys, 2 lungs. If one fails, we can survive on the other. We heal fast. We can tolerate pain that would kill most species. Our bodies are designed for endurance. You're warriors, Ven whispered. Born and bred. We're survivors, Heiyun corrected. There's a difference. Before Ven could respond, alarms went off. A new ship was entering the system. Not Kraith. Not human. This one broadcast Galactic Council identification codes. Captain Hyunwoo met the Council delegation on his ship. The ambassador was named Terrellin. He was a Zith, a species known for their diplomatic skills. He looked at Hyunwoo with obvious distaste. Captain, Terrellin said, you were ordered to stand down. Instead, you engaged in unauthorized military action. I rescued a dying species, Hyunwoo replied calmly. You violated Council protocol. You started a conflict without approval. Do you understand the consequences? I understand that the Velans would all be dead if I had waited for your approval. Trellin's skin color shifted to an angry purple. The Council was handling the situation through diplomatic channels. You humans think violence solves everything. And you think talking solves everything, Hyunwoo shot back. How many worlds has the Kraith Empire taken while you talked? How many people died while you filed complaints? That is not the point. That's exactly the point. Admiral Sunho stepped into the room. His uniform was crisp, his expression hard. The Council has allowed the Kraith to expand for years. You did nothing. We did something. You exceeded your authority, Terrellin insisted. We don't need your authority to defend innocent people, Sunho said. Humanity joined the Council as partners, not as servants. Terrellin looked between them. The Council will not accept this. There will be consequences. We'll deal with them, Sunho replied. After the delegation left, Hyunwoo sat down heavily. We just made powerful enemies. We also made friends, Sunho said. He pulled up a star map. Look at this. We're getting messages from all over the sector. Species that have been attacked by the Kraith. They're asking for our help. Hyunwoo looked at the map. Dozens of signals, hundreds of worlds, all of them crying out for protection that the Council wouldn't provide. We can't save them all, he said quietly. No, Sunho agreed. But we can save some, and that's better than saving none. On Velas Prime, Ven stood with Heiyun and watched human engineers beginning to repair the damaged infrastructure. Marines patrolled the streets. Doctors treated the wounded. How long will you stay? Ven asked. As long as you need us, Heiyun said. We're establishing a garrison here to make sure the Kraith don't come back. The council won't like that. Probably not, Heiyun smiled. But you invited us. That's all the permission we need. Ven looked up at the human ships in orbit. Warships designed for battle, crewed by warriors from a death world. A week ago, he would have been terrified of them. Now he felt safe for the first time in months. Thank you, he said quietly, for answering our call. You're welcome, Heiyun replied. That's what humans do. Someone calls for help, we answer. She didn't say the rest. That humanity had just drawn a line in the sand, that they had challenged the council's authority, that they had made themselves the protectors of the weak. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they weren't leaving. 3 months after Velis Prime, Captain Seojin brought his destroyer into orbit around Mining Colony 447. The distress call had been brief, just coordinates and a single word. Help. What are we looking at? Seojin asked his sensor officer. The colony is still there, but I'm detecting Kraith ships on the surface. They're loading ore into transport vessels. I'm also picking up life signs. Lots of them. They're in the mines. Slaves, Seojin said quietly. He'd seen this before. The Kraith would take a mining colony, kill anyone who resisted, and force the rest to work. How many ships? 4 transports, 2 gunships. We can handle them. Do it! The human destroyer dropped into the atmosphere like a hammer. Kraith sensors detected it too late. Seojin's ship opened fire before the Kraith could even raise shields. 2 transports exploded instantly. The gunships tried to fight back, but stood no chance against a human warship designed for combat. Within minutes, it was over. Human marines landed and freed the colonists. They were a species called the Meren Small, blue-skinned, with large eyes adapted for seeing in darkness. They emerged from the mines looking half-starved and terrified. Commander Tae Hyung led a different mission, a refugee convoy fleeing a Kraith attack. Hundreds of ships, mostly civilian. They had no weapons, no military escort, just families trying to escape. The Kraith caught them at the edge of the system. 3 warships moving in for an easy kill. Tae Hyung's cruiser arrived first. Then 2 more human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The Kraith hesitated. They'd heard the stories about humans by now. Some of them were smart enough to run. These weren't. The battle lasted 8 minutes. All 3 Kraith ships destroyed. Not a single refugee vessel touched. Tae Hyung personally escorted the convoy to a safe world and helped them land. The news spread through the galaxy like fire. Humans weren't just fighting the Kraith. They were winning. Easily. Stories grew with each telling. Some were true, some were exaggerated. All of them painted humans as unstoppable warriors. The Kraith Empire called them demons, war-hungry monsters who killed without mercy. The freed colonies called them saviors, angels from the stars. The Galactic Council called them dangerous. On Earth, the government debated in emergency session. Diplomat Soyeon stood before the assembly, her face projected on screens worldwide. We are violating every council regulation, she argued, taking military action without approval, establishing garrisons on foreign worlds. We're becoming exactly what the council fears, an aggressive death world species spreading through the galaxy. General Minho stood up from his seat. And what should we do instead? Sit back and watch innocent people die? The council has had centuries to stop the Kraith. They've done nothing. Because the council believes in diplomacy. The council believes in comfort, Minho interrupted. They live on safe worlds with stable climates. They've never known real danger. They don't understand that sometimes peace requires people willing to fight for it. That's exactly what I'm afraid of, Soyeon said. That we'll become the galaxy's warriors, always fighting, always at war. Is that what we want? The assembly erupted in argument. Some agreed with Soyeon. Others supported Minho. The debate went on for hours. Finally, Captain Hyun-woo was called to testify. He stood before the assembly, still wearing his uniform from his latest mission. There was a new scar on his face, a reminder of a boarding action that went wrong. "Captain Hyun-woo," Soyeon said, "you started this. You answered that first distress call against orders. Do you regret your decision?" Hyun-woo was quiet for a moment. He thought about Administrator Ven and the Velen children, about the miners on Colony 447, about the refugees Tai-hyung had saved. "No," he said. "I don't regret it. I'd do it again." Even knowing the consequences, the tension with the council, the ongoing conflicts? "Especially knowing the consequences," Hyun-woo said, "because I've seen the alternative. I've seen what happens when good people do nothing, when the strong ignore the weak, when comfort is valued over conscience." He looked directly at the assembly. "We're humans. We come from Earth, a world that tried to kill us every single day. We survived because we learned to protect each other, to stand together. That's not a weakness. That's our strength." "But we can't save everyone," Soyeon said softly. "No," Hyun-woo agreed. "We can't. But we can save some. And every life we save matters. Every child who grows up free instead of enslaved. Every family that survives instead of dying. They all matter." The assembly voted. It was close. But in the end, they authorized continued operations. Humanity would keep answering distress calls, keep fighting the Kraith, keep protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. The Kraith Empire was not happy. 2 weeks later, they struck back. A massive attack on New Jeju, a human colony world on the Outer Rim. 50 Kraith ships appeared without warning. They bombarded the planet for 6 hours before human reinforcements arrived. When the smoke cleared, 4,000 colonists were dead. An entire city was gone. Children, families, people who had nothing to do with the military operations. The images spread across human space, burning homes, bodies in the streets, a school that had taken a direct hit. Something changed that day. Before, humanity had been rescuing others. Now they were the victims. The Kraith had made it personal. Admiral Sunho stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the casualty reports. His hands were shaking with rage. "They wanted a war," he said quietly. "Now they'll get one." Earth's government didn't debate this time. The vote was unanimous. Full military mobilization. Every fleet, every ship, every Marine. The largest human military operation in history. Sunho was given command. His mission was simple: end the Kraith threat. Permanently. But humanity didn't go alone. The Velens offered their worlds as supply bases. The Marin provided intelligence on Kraith positions. Other species that humans had saved stepped forward. They couldn't fight like humans, but they could help in other ways. A coalition formed, not official. Not approved by the Council, but real. Species standing together not because they were ordered to, but because they chose to. The Council sent more warnings, more demands to stand down. Humanity ignored them all. In his office on Earth, Hyun-woo received his new orders. He was being promoted, given command of a strike force. His mission was to hit Kraith supply lines and draw their forces away from the civilian worlds. He looked at the orders and smiled grimly. This was what he'd trained for his whole life. Not because he wanted war, but because he knew sometimes war found you whether you wanted it or not. "Sir," Minji said from the doorway, "the crew is ready, all volunteers." "Good," Hyun-woo said. He stood up and grabbed his jacket. "Let's go save some people." "And kill some Kraith?" "That too." Across the galaxy, the Kraith Empire prepared for the coming storm. They had numbers. They had weapons. They had conquered dozens of worlds. But they had never fought an enemy like this, never faced warriors from a death world, never understood what it meant when humans decided something was worth dying for. The Deathworlder Armada was coming, and this time they weren't just answering a distress call. This time, it was war. The Armada gathered at the edge of Kraith space like a storm about to break. Admiral Sunho stood on the bridge of the carrier Incheon Dawn and watched the fleet assemble. 200 human warships, the largest force humanity had ever put together, and behind them, smaller ships from allied species, the Velans, the Moran others who had suffered under Kraith rule. "All ships reporting ready, sir," his tactical officer reported. "Good." Sunho looked at the star map. At the center was Krythos, the Kraith homeworld, heavily defended, surrounded by orbital fortresses and defense platforms. Taking it would cost thousands of lives, but it had to be done. The Kraith had to know they couldn't attack humanity without consequences. "Send the message," Sunho ordered. The communication went out on every frequency, broadcast to the entire Kraith Empire. "This is Admiral Sunho of the human fleet. You attacked our colony, killed our people. You wanted war, you have it. Surrender now or face destruction. You have 1 hour to respond." The Kraith response came in 30 minutes. A single word: no. "All ships," Sunho said calmly, "begin the attack." The fleet moved as one. Human warships in the front, their armor thick and shields strong. Allied ships behind, providing support fire and electronic warfare. They crossed into Kraith space, and the battle began. The Kraith had prepared for this. Their defensive platforms opened fire immediately. Energy beams and missiles filled the void between planets. Human ships pushed through, taking hits that would destroy lesser vessels. They returned fire with precision and power. Captain Hyun Woo led a strike team of fast attack ships. Their job was to disable the orbital defenses. It was the most dangerous part of the assault. They would be exposed, vulnerable, targets for every Kraith gun. "This is Hyun Woo to all strike teams," he broadcast. "Remember the plan. Fast in, hit the power cores, fast out. Don't be heroes. We need you alive." His ship, the Taiwan, screamed toward the nearest platform. Kraith fighters swarmed around it like angry insects. Human pilots engaged them, drawing them away. Hyunwoo's gunner, a young woman named June, destroyed 3 fighters in quick succession. "Approaching the platform," Minji reported. "Shields at 60%. "Keep going." They flew underneath the massive structure. Hyunwoo could see the power core through the metal framework. He armed the missiles. "Firing!" The missiles struck true. The platform's core exploded in a ball of fire. The entire structure began tearing itself apart. "Pull up! Pull up!" Doyun shouted from engineering. The Taiwan banked hard, barely avoiding debris. Behind them, the platform collapsed completely. "1 down!" Hyunwoo said. 11 to go!" On the ground below, Major Ji-yoon's Marines were already landing. Their mission was to secure the spaceports and prevent Kraith ships from escaping. They hit the ground in the middle of a city, surrounded by Kraith soldiers. The Kraith fought hard. This was their home world. But the human Marines were better trained, better equipped, and fueled by rage over New Jeju. They pushed forward block by block, building by building. Ji-yoon led from the front. Her armor was scorched and dented, but she kept moving. She kicked down a door and found Kraith civilians hiding inside, families, children. For a moment, she hesitated. These weren't soldiers, just people caught in the crossfire. "Secure them," she ordered. "Non-combatants are to be protected, that's an order." Her Marines obeyed. They escorted the civilians to a safe zone and continued the advance. Some of the younger Marines looked confused. They'd been told the Kraith were monsters. But these families looked scared, lost, human. In orbit, the battle was reaching its peak. Human ships were winning, but at a cost. 3 carriers damaged, 7 destroyers destroyed, thousands dead. Admiral Sunho watched the casualty reports climb and felt each loss like a knife. "Sir, the Kraith Emperor is broadcasting," his communication officer said. "Put it on screen." The Kraith Emperor appeared. He was old, his carapace cracked with age, but his eyes burned with defiance. "You cannot win, human," he said. We will fight to the last. We will take as many of you with us as we can." "It doesn't have to be this way," Sunho replied. "Surrender. Face justice for your crimes. Your people can survive." "Never." The Emperor reached for something off-screen. "If we fall, we take this world with us. I've activated the planetary destruction system. In 10 minutes, every city on Kratos will be destroyed. Billions will die. Your victory will be meaningless." The transmission cut off. Alarms screamed across the fleet. "Confirm that!" Sunho demanded. "Confirmed, sir. Massive power buildup across the planet. He's not bluffing. If those weapons fire, they'll destroy everything, including our forces on the ground." Sunho felt the weight of the decision crushing him. He could destroy the Emperor's palace, kill the leadership, but millions of civilians would die. Or he could pull back, let the Emperor escape, and the war would continue. There had to be another way. "Get me Captain Hyunwoo," Sunho ordered. Hyunwoo's face appeared on screen. He was bleeding from a cut on his forehead, his ship damaged but still flying. "Sir? The Emperor activated a planet killer. We have 8 minutes. Can you get to the control center and shut it down?" Hyunwoo looked at his navigation. "It's in the palace. That's in the middle of the heaviest fighting. We'd have to—" "I know what I'm asking," Sunho interrupted. "But you're the only one close enough." Hyunwoo was quiet for just a second. Then he nodded. "We'll do it." He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. "You heard the Admiral. Minji, plot a course to the palace. Fastest possible route." "Sir, we'll have to fly through the city, through all that anti-air fire. Then we fly through it." The Taiwan dove toward the planet. Ground fire erupted all around them. Buildings flashed past. Doyun worked frantically to keep the shields up, while Jiun fired at anything that looked like a threat. They crashed more than landed in the palace courtyard. Hyunwoo grabbed a rifle and ran toward the entrance. His crew followed, all of them knowing they might not make it back. Inside, they fought through corridors full of guards. Hyunwoo led the way, his training taking over. Left turn, 3 guards. Drop them. Keep moving. Another corridor. More guards. Minji threw a grenade. The explosion cleared the path. They found the control room. The Emperor was there, alone, his hand on the activation lever. "Too late, human," he hissed. Hyunwoo raised his rifle. The Emperor smiled. "If you kill me, my hand releases the trigger. The weapons fire. Everyone dies." Hyunwoo lowered his weapon. "Then I won't kill you." He moved fast, crossing the room in 3 steps. He grabbed the Emperor's arm, holding the lever in place, and with his other hand disabled the system controls. Sparks flew. The Emperor screamed in rage. "It's over," Hyunwoo said quietly. Later, after the Emperor was in custody and the battle was won, Sunho toured the damage. The city was in ruins, bodies everywhere, human, Kraith, civilian, soldier. The cost had been terrible. "We won," his second officer said. "Did we?" Sunho looked at the destruction. "Thousands dead, a world in ruins. What did we really win?" But he knew the answer. The Kraith Empire was broken, their fleets scattered, their leadership captured. They would never threaten anyone again. That was worth something. It had to be. On Earth, the Galactic Council called an emergency session. They could no longer ignore what humanity had done. Ambassador Torellin stood before the assembly. "The humans have proven themselves," he said reluctantly. "They stopped the Kraith when no one else would. They protected the innocent. And they did it without council approval or support." He paused. "The council must acknowledge this new reality. We need the humans, not as servants, not as junior members, but as equals, as protectors." The vote was unanimous. Humanity was offered a permanent seat on the Council Security Force. They would be the official military arm of the Council, sanctioned, supported, respected. Captain Hyunwoo attended the ceremony on Velos Prime. They were dedicating a monument to the humans who had died answering the distress call. Administrator Ven spoke, his voice carrying across the crowd. They came when no one else would, Ven said. They fought when no one else could. They saved us when we had given up hope. We will never forget. Haeun stood beside Hyunwoo. She had been promoted to ambassador. Her job now was to coordinate between humanity and the species they protected. Was it worth it? She asked quietly. Hyunwoo looked at the monument, at the names carved in stone, friends, crew members, people he had served with. Ask me that again in 10 years, he said. When the children here have grown up free, when the refugees have new homes, when people can live without fear, then I'll tell you if it was worth it. His communicator beeped. Another distress call. A mining colony under attack. Pirates this time, not Kraith, but still people who needed help. Hyunwoo looked at Hyun. She smiled. Duty calls, she said. It always does. He headed back to his ship. The Taiwan had been repaired, its crew refreshed. They were ready for the next mission, the next rescue, the next battle. Because that's what humans did. Someone called for help, and they answered. Not because it was easy, not because it was profitable, but because it was right. The galaxy had learned something important. The Deathworlders were dangerous. They were warriors. They were feared. But they were also protectors, saviors, heroes. And as long as someone needed help, they would be there. The Armada stood ready, watching, waiting, protecting, forever.